Hello guys, in this lecture we are going to talk about structs and enums. A struct is a collection of key value pairs similar to a mapping, but the values can have different types. A struct introduces a new complex data type that is composed of elementary data types. We use structs to represent a singular thing that has properties like a car, a person, a request, and so on. And we use mappings to represent a collection of things, like a collection of cars, requests, and so on. A struct is saved in storage, and if declared inside a function, it references storage by default. Let's see some examples. I'll continue my auction contract, and I want to define a struct variable. So, struct, the name of the struct, let's say car. The type of variable I introduce is named car. This is a new type of variable. And after that, between curly braces, I have the key of my struct, let's say string description, unsigned integer value. So a car has a value, a description. A car has a build year, unsigned integer, build year. Okay, here I've introduced a new data type, but I didn't create any state variable, so my contract doesn't have any new variable. If I want to declare a new variable of type car, I write car public, and now the name of my state variable, let's say private car. I will also declare a mapping variable that has the keys of type address and the values are of type car. This variable is public and its name is cars, written with lowercase letters. Let's see how can we initialize these variables. The recommended way is using the constructor. I'll define the constructor of this contract, constructor, and my constructor has three arguments. A string argument named underline description, a uint argument named underline value, and another, the third argument of type uint named build year. And inside the constructor, I will initialize my private car state variable of type car. So private car dot description equals underline description. Private car dot value equals underline value. And private car dot build year equals underline build year. I have initialized my private car variable. Now I want to add this variable, this car, this private car, to my mapping structure. So cars, this is the name of the mapping variable of, and now the address of the account that owns this variable. Let's say msg.sender. msg.sender is the address of the account that deploys the contract, equals private car. Okay, we have here a warning because I didn't specify the public visibility specifier. This is anyway default. And now I want to deploy this contract. I'll use the JavaScript virtual machine because it's simpler. If I deploy the contract without giving arguments to the constructor, like I did here, all these values will have their default value. So the description being a string will be an empty string, value will be 0, and build year will be also 0. I can see that my private car has a value of 0, build year 0, and the description is an empty string. Okay, we'll try one more time. Now I will give the arguments to the constructor. So the description, let's say Ford, the value 100, and the build year 2010. This is my contract. It has been deployed. So the private car has the description Ford, the value 100 and the build year 2010. Now let's see what is the value of the key represented by the address of the account that deployed this contract. So I'll copy the address of this account. This is msg.sender, and here I'll paste that value. And I see that the value of that key is my private car. Let's see now how can we modify a struct variable. So I create a function modify car. This function has 3 arguments. I'll copy paste the arguments from the constructor because they are the same. It's a public function. And now I create a temporary in-memory struct variable. So car memory new car equals, and now car between parentheses and curly braces. So this is the syntax. I have something like this: description colon underline description, value colon underline value. This is the function argument. Here we have a comma. Yeah, we have comma between the elements. And the last element of my struct variable is build year colon underline build year. Here we have a semicolon, and now my storage variable, let's say the private car variable, equals new car. Okay, so this is a possibility to modify a struct variable. Take care of this syntax. One more time, I repeat that this variable will be created in memory, so not on storage. If I don't specify the memory keyword here, this variable being a struct will be saved on storage, and we can have problems. We'll see in other examples, we can have big problems. Okay, let's deploy this contract. Okay, the description, let's say, is Audi. This is an expensive car. The order of the constructor arguments is very important. So the second argument is value 500 and the build year is 2008. The contract has been deployed, and now I can see my private car. I copy paste the owner address, the creator address, and I paste here. And now I want to modify this car. The new description will be BMW. The value, this will be a more expensive car, so will be 2000. And the build year 2018. The transaction has been mined, so the car has been modified. And now let's see what are the values from this variable. So the new description is BMW, the value is 2000 and the build year is 2018. If I paste the same address here, I can see that my mapping variable hasn't been changed because I didn't change the mapping variable, the cars variable. I only changed here the struct variable, the private car variable. Now let's talk about enums variables. So enums are used to create user-defined types. An enum variable is explicitly convertible to and from integer. Let's see an example. Here in my contract, I'll create an enum variable. So enum. Now the name of the type I introduce, let's say state, and this type can have the following values. So running, stopped, and inactive. Okay, this is a new type I introduced, and now I create a state variable of type state like this: state public, and now the name of the variable, let's say status, equals, I initialize the variable at declaration time, state.running. And here inside my function, my modify car function, I can only allow this function to execute if my auction is in running state. So here I can have something like that. If status is equal to state.running, then I run this block of code. Else, I return. So my function will return false when it can't modify the state variable because it's not in the running state. So here is running, and this is this comes here. Okay. Okay, this is the correct syntax. And here I return true. And here, of course, I must specify returns bool. This is how we use enums variable. We can, for example, have another function named modify state that modifies the state of the auction if something happened. For example, if there is a problem, the admin can stop the auction, or if another thing happens, the auction will become inactive, and so on. We'll use enum variables in the contracts we'll program in the following sections.